Today's case is one that showcases the depravity of one woman, the resilience of the kids she left abandoned for years, and it begs the question, how did she, a community, and a system fail these siblings so horribly? Let's talk about it in today's video. Hello Sofa Squad and welcome back to the sofa. Sofa's there. I'm right here. My name is Paul if you're new to the channel. If you're not new to the channel, well, my name is Paul. As you heard from my little opening, we're going to be discussing a very sensitive case, but one that's very shocking as to how it even occurred. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to talking about it. So on Valentine's Day, officers in Pontiac, Michigan, they were conducting a welfare check on this rental home when the landlord became really concerned, and rightfully so. Now, he hadn't heard from the tenant since December, okay? The rent had been unpaid since October. Inside, they discovered 3 juveniles, 1 boy age 15 and 2 girls age 12 and 13. Now, they had been abandoned for years. Okay. They were living in conditions that were described as unspeakably horrific, deplorable, unconscionable, if I could say that word right, just to name a few, okay? It was very much the vibe, if not worse, of what we just finished watching with Little Miss Megan and her place over there, okay? Boswell, Megan Boswell. So, upon entry, the authorities find the children. They're hiding but cooperative when they were asked to come out. Now, in the home, garbage was piled as high as 4 feet in places, okay? Now, there was mold, there was human waste throughout various rooms. Now, the boy, this is so heartbreaking. The boy would sleep on a mattress and the girls were sleeping in little pizza boxes, okay? I can't. Now, 5 days after the rescue, February 19th, their mother, Kelly Marie Bryant, she's 34 years old. She was arrested, as you can only imagine, and she was charged with 3 counts of child abuse in the first degree. And guess what her bond was? Okay, 250 million buckaroos, right? This is all set at her arraignment the following day. Now, if convicted, Bryant faces up to life in prison, okay? And when we talk about what was going on, you're gonna be like, hey, yeah, send her on down the way, okay? Now, the story that the boy would tell the officers was, again, absolutely heartbreaking. The boy told the officers that they lived alone. They had not been to school since their mother abandoned them this 4 or 5 years ago. Oakland County Prosecutor Karen McDonald at a press conference elaborated. I'm going to quote what she said here, okay? She allegedly lived in the house with her 4 children in 2019, but at some point between 2020 and 2021, she had moved out and left 3 of her children there, while a 4th child would go to live with the father. Now, the son would text their mother when they were low on food, and she hadn't spoken to the girls in years aside from that, okay? Now, the children were subsisting on weekly drop-offs of prepared food from the mom or delivery companies, think Instacart, think DoorDash, things like that. Now, the mother would never leave personal hygiene products like soap, shampoo, toilet paper, anything like that, okay? So toward the end of this nightmare, Bryant, according to the eldest child, was only sending a loaf of bread for them to share. Not only that, but with the expectation that it would last at least 3 to 4 days. Okay. Now, there was a press release from Sheriff Bouchard, and they stated, okay, I'm going to go ahead and quote him. Throughout my extensive career in this field, he says, I have never encountered a scenario as dire and prolonged as this one, involving abandonment, neglect, and the abuse of the highest order. This situation would be deemed deplorable and intolerable for an animal, and it is utterly unacceptable for 3 children. They have been deprived of any interaction with their mother and have not received an education for years. The far-reaching consequences of this abuse must be acknowledged. We look forward to presenting this case to the prosecutor and ensuring that this mother faces the consequences of her actions. So the rental unit was processed by an evidence technician. They had to wear the hazmat suit. You can only imagine, right? They had to do the whole 9 yards. Now, the children children, as you can imagine, they're like wearing soiled clothing. They had matted hair. Toenails were several inches long. I mean, they had a hard time even walking in the condition that they were in. Now, on the condition of the children, McDonald stated that, and I'll quote them, they showed severe signs of neglect and had difficulties flushing the toilet and brushing their teeth because they hadn't done so in years. Can you imagine? Now, McDonald said that they were allegedly instructed by their mother to never answer the door. She also obviously said don't ever leave the house, and they were scared enough of her. They didn't want to find out how she would react if they did any of those things. Now, the boy reported that he'd only left the house twice, okay? Once to touch the grass, this is so sad, and another time to check the mail. Now, Bryant also lied to other family members about who was caring for the children and hid them from all family and friends. Now, as you can imagine, we got tons of questions here, okay? And Click on Detroit set out to answer some of the public's most frequently asked. Let's go over a couple of those. So first of all, where was the kid's dad, right? Well, like, where was he in this? So the father of the children had been incarcerated for some time. He didn't have any contact with the kids. Now, Sheriff Bouchard said that when he got out, he filed legal papers to get visitation rights to see the kids. And he actually got a consent agreement that was issued in 2022. However, the mother allegedly still would not allow him to even see the children. Why didn't the children ask for help is another one. When referring to why the children didn't leave or ask for help, Sheriff Bouchard said that the kids were young, they were scared, right? They were like literally just doing what they were told to do, okay? They didn't know any better. They didn't want to get the repercussions. You know, obviously she manipulated and kind of controlled them in that way. They were just doing what they were told and living in these conditions, and that became their reality. Now, the sheriff would say that he wasn't really sure at this point in time if the mother had said anything in particular to scare the children. Okay, now another question. How did no one at school notice? Bouchard said that this happened during COVID-19 pandemic, and that played a bit of the part in this. Now, again, if you remember that year, of course, you know, a lot of these cases happened then and enabled situations like this to take place, unfortunately, and we've seen the ramifications of some of those, you know, coming out of the woodwork like this right here, sadly. Now, that he also said that the gaps in the state school code allowed for the status of the children to go undetected. So there's layers of things going on here. Now, one school received a request for records from another Pontiac school, but no verification was ever moved to that school. So when the children didn't show up to school, they were just dropped off the enrollment list for the school that had sent over the transcripts. Now, in this case, both schools presumed that the children were at the other school, right? So it's like the left hand doesn't know what the right hand's doing kind of a thing. Bouchard said that there are proposing amendments to the Michigan school code to help like close these gaps so that something like this wouldn't happen when a kid goes and unenrolled in a school. What did the neighbors see as a major one, right? I wanted to know this one too. So they write that the neighbors told authorities that they never saw the children outside the house, but would see the mother drop things off. That's how she wanted it set up, right? After the mother was arrested, the 3 children were put in a relative's custody by Child Protective Services. Now, on Monday, Michelle Ratcliffe, a neighbor, expressed her outrage over how the children were left to live alone in those horrible conditions for years, okay? As you can imagine, and I'll quote her, she said, "You just can't do kids like that, okay? They can't fend for themselves," she said. And Ratcliffe said that she knows the kids' grandfathers and said that it's just really sad that nobody ever checked on them. Now, soon after this went down, the cleanup of the home and neighbors began speaking out. What I want to do now is I want to take a look at a news clip to get a little update on that and just see up close for ourselves kind of what was going on.
CBS News Detroit's Heath Kalb is in Pontiac asking neighbors about this case and the cleanup ahead.
Well, I spoke to some of the people who were tasked with cleaning out this townhome behind me, and they told me they've never seen anything like it before.
There was feces
everywhere.
Everywhere on the walls, wiped on the walls. The toilet was like filled up this much.
Cleaners spent all day Friday inside of the townhome on Lydia Lane in Pontiac, where the Oakland County Sheriff's Office says 3 children spent almost every single second inside of for over 4 years while they were abandoned from their mother. And the condition the residence was in is what Sheriff Michael Bouchard describes as deplorable.
I never seen nothing like this before. You know, how could someone do something to kids like that? Treat them just like a dog, you know, it's just terrible.
I spoke to a woman who lives about 10 doors down in the same complex, who told me she's still in shock, and that after living in foster care herself, she's astonished these 3 children were allegedly abandoned for so long without anyone finding out.
It's tragic, it really is. They were it's been about 4 years, so they were a lot younger when this started, and just the fact that their mom shows up once a week to give them a little bit of food with no hygiene products or anything, just it's going to have a lot of long-term, like, lasting effects on them, and it's really, it stinks.
Lovegrove also mentioned the confusion herself, much like many others are feeling, about how the neighbors that shared walls with the abandoned children didn't smell or notice anything off.
Honestly, something like that's going to penetrate. Like, I smell sometimes people cooking in their own places. So the fact that their neighbors didn't notice anything, there were no kind of like rodent problem or anything that they were noticing, is very shocking.
Bryant is now being detained on a $250 million cash bond. For now, here in Pontiac, I'm Heath Kalb, CBS News Detroit.
I mean, that is so hard to watch, those pictures that they showed. Can you imagine? And she brings up a good point by the neighbor that they talked to at the very end, where she was like, okay, she lived 10 doors down, and she's just like, I can smell people cooking through the walls sometime. So I don't know how there wasn't a rodent problem. I don't know how, like, the connecting neighbors didn't smell anything. I mean, we never know, right? Like, you know, we weren't there, I wasn't there, whatever. So, but I mean, think about those conditions. How did no one hear anything? How did they not smell something? I cannot imagine. Now, upon finding this out, the town, people near and far, they've all rallied around the children, and the sheriff county's office proudly boasted this. I'll put it up here on the screen and I'll read from it. The Oakland County Sheriff's Office is truly humbled by the outpouring of generosity from our community and beyond. Your clothing donations for the 3 young victims in Pontiac have been overwhelming, and we cannot thank you enough for stepping up in their time of need. At this time, we have shifted our focus to accepting monetary donations through the Sheriff's Office nonprofit to help cover ongoing costs for their care, education, and future needs. If you would like to contribute, please visit. It puts the thing there. 100% of your donation will go to support the children for the days, weeks, months, and years ahead. The support we have received from our local residents across Michigan and even nationwide is nothing short of remarkable. Your kindness and compassion are making a real difference in these children's lives. And then it gives the hashtags and whatnot. Now, I'll put links down in the description below if you would like to contribute to that. You can make that decision yourself. In moments like these where situations like this happen, and like, you know, the sheriff is saying, like, people have just really, you know, rallied around these children and whatnot, it gives me goosebumps, because as you heard, you know, fingernails completely long, they don't understand probably how to care for themselves, hygiene, basic stuff. Mother dropping off a loaf of bread to make it last 3 to 4 days. I mean, there's going to be almost a feral type nature to these kids, right? That they're going to have to relearn stuff. Because think about, like, 4 to 5 years, especially during these formative years, where you're just in a townhome, just wiping feces on the wall and eating bread. I mean, right? I mean, can you imagine? And then imagine the realization for the poor little things, those first few days or whatever it was when she left, and like that sense of abandonment. Like, as a child, you're not going to think or believe, oh, they're not coming home. Oh, they're not coming home. You know what I'm saying? It would be like that slow realization of, well, where's mom? Well, maybe we'll call her. Why can't we get a hold of her? And then whatever she was doing to keep them at bay whenever she talked to them. I mean, the fact that she could somehow control them. I mean, these are young kids, right? So they're not going out of the house. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. But also you heard other people say, like, I'm just thinking out loud at this point. You heard other people say where they had family members, they had this, and granted, I get she's lying and whatnot. But again, it's the same thing we asked with Megan Boswell. Why not go to a family member that could help and be like, these kids are too much, whatever the situation is. And I get there's like shame and this and that, but is this the other answer? Right? Like, I don't understand in these cases we keep seeing day after day after day after day, where this is the logical answer to them, as opposed to, oh God, this is gonna be really embarrassing in my part. Like, I'm gonna have to like go get whoever to help these kids. You know, if God willing that you have that person, right? So this is the answer, or worse yet, I mean, like Megan Boswell, look at how that ended, right? I will never understand it, and I don't think it's meant to be understood, right? So anyways, that's it. I do appreciate you hanging out, listening to me. If you're still here, I very much thank you. This was a hard one to listen to. I can only imagine. It was a hard one to talk about. Now, we'll be following this one, obviously, because number one, I want to see what happens with the laws they're trying to change. I mean, you see a lot of these cases, the silver lining, if you have to have one, is it's almost like, okay, so we see this loophole and this is what happened, so let's go fix that, so on and so forth, right? So anyways, that's it. Let me know what you think in the comment section. While you're down in the comment section, if you could please drop some Sofa's off down there. For myself, Rosco and Spirit, Bo and Luke, who are playing over there ever so quietly and nicely, and the rest of the Sofa squad, so we'll all have a place to sit, talk about this case and all the other cases we do talk about here at the Sofa squad. And until we all meander our way on down there to do that, I'll see y'all soon. I just wanted to say thank you again for watching the whole video, and also thank you for being part of the Sofa Squad. Special thanks to all the Patreon members, channel members from both of my channels, everybody who likes, shares, subscribes, comments in the comment sections. It helps the channel out so much. Now don't forget, I do have that other channel, the podcast channel. That's where we go live, we hang out, we talk. We have kind of sort of a schedule, but just be sure and check it out. I'll put it up here on the screen. And then like I said in the beginning of the video, if you want to follow me and Rosco on the Instagram, go on, check it out. It's right here on the screen again. But once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate you being part of the Sofa Squad, and I'll see you in the next video.